So thanks, Sandy. Thanks, everyone, for staying up until the very last talk. I promise I'll try to be brief and entertaining, I hope. So this is the outline of my presentation. I'll be giving a few slides as an introduction about what we do to foster relationships with industry. Then I'll give some specific examples about how we foster innovation and open innovation as itself, in a sense of companies looking for external collaborations and fostering relationships, like kind of public-private partnerships. Then I'll give a few examples of impact. How can we measure that? And I'll give some final remarks about what is happening in the nodes, basically. So what's happening locally in your country. So the first one, as an introduction, you've already seen that, but I just put on bold that ELIXIR underpins life science research across academia and also industry. So we definitely underpins industrial research. We have many examples of large pharma companies using ELIXIR resources. And you already saw this slide many times today about the structure. I just want to focus a little bit on the human genomics example, and I'm actually going to repeat a couple of slides as Cecile just showed to the audience. But I want to, spend 2 minutes on EGA. You know that EGA, you have data submitters and data requesters, and it's basically the backbone for the human genomics and translational data use case. But we just recently got this slide from the EGA in Barcelona, and it's a particularly nice slide. It basically summarizes the number of industrial accounts. Basically, these are accounts on EGA coming from these pharma companies, so it's basically emails. And you can see that really big companies like Lilly, Astellas, Pfizer, Gentech, Merck, they do use EGA. So again, coming to my very first slide, this again gives an example of how these really big resources, and EGA is a core data resource. So these are basically heavily used by the industrial community. Now we have the list of the core data resources, so we'll be working towards having some more impact stories on each and every one of the core data resources. EGA is kind of easy because you have to be registered. You have to go to a data access committee. So it's easy to collect email addresses. But I think it represents a very nice example of ELIXIR resources, again, underpinning industrial research. Moving a little bit to how can we foster innovation, I think the very first thing, and that was set in ELIXIR from the very beginning, is to listen to innovators and to listen to companies. That's why we have an industry advisory committee, which is a high-level group of experts coming from different companies, different sizes, even companies associations. And they meet once a year face-to-face. And we, ELIXIR, as an organization, we go to them and we tell them what we do, what has been the progress so far in that year, and they produce a report. And we follow the report because it's always full of really interesting recommendations, because they have another view, they have some other ideas. And I can give you a specific example of just what happened last year. A member of our industry advisory committee, Christian Paulitz, which is in the back just next to Nicholas, just suggested that we should be working towards having some kind of training roadmap from A to B, trying to have some defined competencies. I was just talking to the training platform over lunchtime, and they are just going to take that idea forward. So that's the kind of thing that the industry advisory committee does for us. So it's a very nice group. And well, we go back to them from time to time. We ask them for advice and counseling sometimes in some particular initiatives. And we are actually recruiting 4 new members of the industry advisory committee. And this is an open process. So if you know someone from the industry which is already engaged with you in your node or in your initiative or in your resource, and you think is a good candidate, please let him or her know. And it's just a matter of sending the CV, and then the ELIXIR board decides in the autumn. So we recruit people on personal capacity, and these are supposed to be bioinformatics experts from a variety of companies. And again, just to stress that we cover all life science domains, so not necessarily human genomics or pharma companies. We can cover marine companies, agri companies, clusters, associations, because we are really interested in knowing from the community. ELIXIR is about community, so we don't want to focus only on big pharma or just some particular set of SMEs. what actually drives our industry strategy is this document, the industry strategy. It has 5 points. The first point, and I'm not going to be stopping in that one, is the increase industry usage and ensure that the name is a quality name. And this is very much related to the core data resources. We already know that the list has been released today. So I invite you first to go and click in the document. It's going to be available in the presentation, explore the industry strategy, and then go and have a look at the core data resources that are extremely important for the industrial community too. I want to stop for a few minutes in the point number 2, which is the enable open innovation by Europe SMEs. That's kind of the jewel of the crown of the industry strategy, because this is the innovation and SME program that we run. Basically, we just want to expand the reach of ELIXIR to the industrial community using the innovation and SME program, which is focused on SMEs, but the name can be a little bit misleading because it's basically open for everyone. We also want to reach to large pharma companies, so everyone is invited to these events. So, and these events, basically what they do is a network platform, and they support capacity building in line with Jerry's talk for nodes. So basically, conversations start at these events. Our ELIXIR partners, the ELIXIR experts, they get to talk to the company experts. So these are networking platforms basically to support the nodes development. I have a small point in there about a paper planned for 2017 about how ELIXIR nodes engage with industry. I give a few examples in my final remarks about things that are happening currently. And then I'll come back in a minute to another paper we're developing about open innovation, but that'll be in 2 minutes. So far, we've had 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 events, as you can see in different parts of Europe, different themes, always related to use cases. So I invite you to go to the industry section in the ELIXIR website. All the presentations are available. So if you are interested in knowing what happened in the marine metagenomics event in Oslo in 2016, everything is in there. So please go take 2 minutes and explore the website. And we have some upcoming events. We have one event, and I'll be talking about this in a minute, in Belgium, in Brussels, on the 9th and 10th of October. And then we have 2 more planned, one in France, in Paris, 14th and 15th of November, about rare diseases and personalized medicine, and the next one in Cambridge is going to be about discoverability of data, tools, and training, together with our ELIXIR France and ELIXIR UK node, respectively. Coming back to the one happening in October in Brussels, as a kind of a leaflet, the registration is open, so please feel free and go and register if you are interested in nutrition and microbiome data. And this event is going to be a kind of a new format for us, because it's going to be a series of debates about data sources, analysis and tools, and integration. And we're going to have, interestingly enough, ELIXIR partners, people from SMEs, small and medium enterprises, people from large companies, all together as part of the same table in different kind of themes. And then we're going to have debates. So it'll be nice to just not to present what we do at ELIXIR to the industrial community, but also to hear from the industrial community what do they need from us in this particular theme of the innovation, food, and microbiome. So I think that's going to be a very interesting and active event. And we have some really nice confirmed speakers from different backgrounds, from the European Commission to the European Molecular Biology Laboratory and some other spin-off companies, to Silvia Miret Catalan, which is a senior director in Unilever. So we can have different views at the event. And that's actually a common theme in these events. We're always very interested in having different views from different people, and not only just to tell people what we do, but also to listen and to have some actual outcomes. And my next slide is about the outcomes. So what we want to do in these events is to promote collaboration, basically. So sometimes in these events, what happens is collaboration between a company and a node. So in this case, for example, in Finland, in February this year, Medisapiens, which is a Finnish company, started collaborating formally with CSC, our ELIXIR Finland node. And they are using basically the CSC compute infrastructure to kind of test some new pipelines in the company. Viva, a consultancy company, is collaborating with Barcelona Supercomputing Center, which is part of the ELIXIR Spain. So that also happened in the Barcelona event. So that was fostered there. And then Anilin is an epigenomics genomics company, is now talking to Thomas King at EGA to kind of share some information. So that's another outcome which is very nice, is just to share information. It's not necessarily project or a funded collaboration. Sometimes it's just people talking to each other and say, look, I have this really nice pipeline analyzing my epigenetics in my company. Maybe you want to have a look at that in EGA and take some advantage. So that's some really nice 3 outcomes of the last 2 events in 2017. And this chart shows that we work very hard to have at least 50% of attendees coming from the private sector. It's usually very populated with academic partners and ELIXIR partners, and we're always trying to reach out to companies to get them to come to the events, because actually when you have 50 and 50% is when conversations at the coffee time happen, collaborations are started. So we try to keep this kind of 50% aim, 50% of private sector aim in all the events. The industry strategy also has other points about building effective partnerships with the stakeholders. We already heard about OncoTrack. I just want to mention that OncoTrack is an IMI-funded project, and IMI, as many of you know, is a public-private initiative in Europe, basically bringing together public money and FPA companies, large pharma companies. And then we also work with industry clusters, which is a very effective way to reach out to companies. Rather than going one by one, we focus on the associations. Sometimes there are European associations like Europa Bio or CIBER, which basically are associations of associations. Sometimes it's just local organizations like BioCat in Barcelona, Flanders Bio in Flanders region in Belgium, Bio in Munich, or One Nucleus in the Cambridge area. So these are very helpful channels to reach out to companies. So we try to use them as much as possible. And we also try to ensure effective communication between ELIXIR and industry, and for that we have a tool, which is our ELIXIR Industry mailing list. Now we have something like 400 people in the mailing list. All of them are like past attendees at the events or people actively registering to the mailing list. And that's a kind of a wordle of the companies we have in the mailing list. And if you, as part of ELIXIR, have any content you want to distribute to this industry group, always very happy to take that into consideration. We send 4 industry newsletters a year, and we're always looking for content and interesting things for industry happening within ELIXIR. So please, if you have any idea, let me know. I was just talking to Patricia about how can we streamline the training in that newsletter. So that'll happen. So yeah, even subscribe if you are interested in knowing what is happening, what interesting things are happening in ELIXIR related to industry. I was just mentioned training 2 times already, but we have a specific point in the agenda, in the strategy for training to support the bioinformatics training needs of industry. We've been running surveys to basically understand what industry needs, and we've been very busy enhancing the visibility of ELIXIR training courses and especially tests for industry, because we just discovered that TESS is always very popular within industrial partners and the private sector. Basically, we just stress to everyone in industry that TESS is open for industrial community. It's open, obviously, to browse through TESS, but it's also, it will be very nice if industry could upload events and industry and training material to the TESS page. So we have an active way of collaborating, just open there for the industrial community too. So TESS is a very nice and powerful tool. I think Niall is gone now, but yeah, I'm also, so I just want to reassure what, I mean, TESS is really important for establishing a dialogue with the industrial community. It's very easy to get them to buy into these kind of free things. Another thing we do as part of the industry strategy is to measure impact. And there is a paper published recently, and it's again in the 1000 channel, about the use and the proportion of patents using bioinformatics databases. And you have some really big numbers in the academic space, but also a fairly big number of patents citing bioinformatics databases in the industrial community in different aspects, from industrial enzymes, biomarkers, vaccines, even things related to Ebola. So that actually shows the impact, again, that the bioinformatic public databases and data sources have in industrial research. But we want to go a little bit more beyond that because, well, this is just people, not just, but this is people using databases. But we want to capture another kind of level of usage, which is basically relying on public resources as your business model. And this is a main effort we're doing right now. And we're trying to capture this ecosystem of really dynamic and innovative SMEs, which are basically basing their business models on public resources. The relationship with the public resources is very different sometimes. Sometimes it's just customization. And we have the example of Eagle Genomics, who basically uses Ensemble, and then they kind of sell it back. So they customize Ensemble, which is a very incredibly complex tool, so they kind of facilitate a little bit that, they customize it, and they sell it back again. But then we have companies aggregating these resources, and people like Ontoforce, which have a discovery platform aggregating data sources from different spaces, even private spaces sometimes, but they do aggregate data from Uniprot, from Campbell. And then we have another companies that kind of broker the interaction of the user, of the client with the public resource, like Repositive, which basically facilitates navigation through genomics data, or general bioinformatics. It's a kind of a mix. They facilitate and they also integrate. We have the Hive, the Dutch company, which is very engaged in the open software. So they basically take open software, they modify it, and they make it open again. And the business model is about the training and the maintenance. And then we have Intelligent Pharma, which is a software company. They develop drug discovery software. And things like Uniprot and Campbell are very important for them. So we have different levels of reliance on public resources. We want to capture this ecosystem because it's very important for basically two things. One thing is to communicate more to companies. So this is going to set some really nice examples. Companies are going to feel identified. They're going to see some ways to go. And this is also very important for funders because it's really nice to describe this ecosystem and to say these resources are not only valid and very used by academic researchers, but also by the industrial community. Not even large pharma companies, but this is a set of really highly dynamic SMEs. So again, if you know of some these SMEs which are highly reliant on public services, please let me know. You all have my email. We're just looking for some more examples. And as a final remarks, I just want to spend the last 3 minutes of my presentation just basically saying that there are public-private partnerships already currently happening in the nodes, and very nice examples is, for example, the ELIXIR Industry program, where you basically have the majority of the top 20 pharma already engaged in the program, also the agri-food and consumer companies. They get to talk on a quarterly basis to ELIXIR experts, to the people running the databases. So that's obviously very interesting for this large company. ELIXIR Spain is also taking advice from service providers like Intel and Atos. We know that the Swiss Institute of Bioinformatics is collaborating with this bunch of companies. Majority of them are Swiss SMEs. Another very nice example is DTL. It's a public-private partnership by definition, so they have quite a few companies already engaged. And then ELIXIR Denmark also has an advisory committee made by people from industry, Novozymes, Novo Nordics, a hospital, and Exicon, so pharma companies or enzyme companies. So this is all happening on the nodes. So from the hub, we just try to help this to happen more, to foster more even open innovation relationships. And in a more general level, we are also part of the CORBEL project that many of you know. It's a cluster project, basically bringing together 11 research infrastructures. All of them, they have a sort of innovation office or industry program. And this CORBEL project, in the case of innovation, is just bringing together experts from the different infrastructures. So we share best practices, we share templates for innovation. So it's kind of putting everyone in the same room and you know, exchanging information about what the infrastructure on mouse phenotyping does, what the translational medicine infrastructure does. So it's actually a very helpful project where information is kind of exchanged very fast, by the way. So I think with that, I'll take questions, and I'll thank everyone.
Questions for Pablo, interesting innovation.
So the major strategy for industry and ELIXIR is partnership or service provider. And is the possibility that ELIXIR could set up a spin-off?
No, sorry. That was a short answer. Well, the main strategy is to first to communicate. So we need to ensure that the industrial community knows. And then if there are any sort of collaboration, it has to be done at the node level. And then it can be taken from there, but then it's kind of outside of the remit of ELIXIR when we try just to foster relationships, and then it has to be done kind of at institute level or group level. But in a more general infrastructure point of view, I think it's just a matter of fostering collaborations. And especially from the hub, we just remain neutral. We just facilitate the scientific collaboration.
Any further questions? In which case,
Thank you.
thank you. Let's thank Pablo again. So that brings us to the end of the ELIXIR track, quite ahead of schedule, actually. And I think that's a sign that the talks so far have been very clear, because it hasn't led to many questions, and maybe the fact that everyone's leaving now as well. But anyway, just to finish.